Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 332 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where, well, let's be honest, we didn't read the notice either.
I mean, come on, guys. It's like the terms and conditions. Just click OK.
You don't have a choice.
No. Well, folks, I'm Shawn Marchese, the Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, who has been hiring ruffians out of the wild, Alan Sisto.
Is that what you're calling my co-host now, Shawn?
No, you said that, not me.
I know. I wrote the joke.
Not me.
My bad. I know. First of all, welcome back, Shawn. It is always a pleasure to have you with me, and I'm looking forward to running out the rest of this season in The Lord of the Rings with you.
Thanks, man. I'm happy to be back. This is exciting. I'm looking forward to jumping into one of my favorite chapters, and we got some other fun stuff coming up, too.
We sure do. Folks, join us as Bill Ferny is driven off far too soon for our satisfaction in the first of our 5 episodes on the Scouring of the Shire, the 8th chapter in Book 6 of The Lord of the Rings.
Alan, I'm pretty sure that's the first time anybody's ever said Bill Ferny and satisfaction in the same sentence.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
But kudos to you, my friend.
Ask his ex-wives. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yep. Anyway, no matter how you arrived, folks, you are all welcome here in the common room. At the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are reading and talking our way through Middle-earth with plenty of speculation and bad jokes along the way.
Well, clearly. Now, we do love deep dives into the lore, discussing our favorite themes, and a whole lot more.
But we try to keep it light and fun. We're like a couple of your old friends chatting at the pub, and we're glad you've joined us.
I'm sure you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, well, it's a good thing you're here, Shawn, because it's time for fan favorite Philology Fair. All right, Shawn, so what do you have for us tonight?
All right. Well, in this chapter, which, as I said, is one of my favorite chapters in the whole book, and I've been so looking forward to this for a long time. In this chapter, our Hobbit heroes return home, and they immediately get caught up in some of the local trouble with the sheriffs. And while the troubles are new, well, the office of sheriff itself is actually not new. We were told way back in the prologue to The Lord of the Rings that sheriffs was the name that the hobbits gave to their police. And that was the case long before Lotho Pimple and his big folk overlords took over. Spoilers, not spoilers. I
suppose. Big folk overlords, didn't they open for...
Grand Funk Railroad?
I think they did. Big folk overlords. I like that. That works for me. We talked about the word sheriff briefly back in episode 94 and touched on it again in the mailbag the next episode. But we have not done, and I swore I thought we did, but we've not done a full-blown philology fair on it. So we're going to do it now.
We are going to do it now because the sheriffs, it's an old job, but the troubles are new and the word nerdery is new. So we're going to do it here today. Now, of course, sheriff is just an alternate spelling of sheriff. No surprise there. So the real question to ask ourselves is, why? Why does Tolkien spell it this idiosyncratic way? Well, the good news is he tells us why he does this in the nomenclature of The Lord of the Rings.
It's rare enough that he actually tells us why he did something.
Yeah. There's actually an entry for sheriff or sheriffs. And he says, actually a now obsolete form of English sheriff, Shire officer, used by me to make the connection with Shire plainer. In the story, sheriff and Shire are supposed to be special hobbit words, not generally current in the common speech of the time, and so derived from their former language, related to that of the Rohirrim.
So there you have it. He spelled it sheriff to make it more obvious to the reader that this word is etymologically connected to the word Shire. Now that may come as a surprise to those of us who grew up in the U.S. and tend to associate sheriffs with classic Western movies.
Or with flashing lights in our rearview mirrors. Not that I know from personal experience.
No, of course not.
Trust me, if you do get pulled over by a sheriff's deputy, I don't care who you are, don't make a Hobbit joke. They don't like it. It's just, no. It's
especially in Texas, man.
Especially in Texas or Louisiana, and especially if they're not tall. You do not.
Oh, no.
Do not do it.
No. That's
and don't ask me how I know. I will not tell you.
Okay. Wow.
Anyway.
Off mic. All right.
Now, the Old English form of this word is Shir Yerefa, which comes from Shir, which means Shire, which literally just meant something kind of like a administrative office or district. It came from an older Germanic word that meant care or official charge. And the second part of the word is Yerefa, which meant king's officer. Now, the origin of Yerefa is not all that clear, but we do know that it's the origin of a modern English word, and that word is reeve.
Okay. Well, I kind of thought that with you pronouncing that word so many times, you wouldn't have it in my notes, but you've still made me do this as well. So I'll go ahead and try my best. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the Shire Yerefa, did I get that right?
Nicely done. Yeah,
Okay.
That's great. As good as mine. Somebody will probably call me out on some mistake I made, but it sounds
Well, we're going to try Dutch and Swedish later in the episode.
I know. Yeah, that's going to be exciting.
It was an office that existed before the Norman conquest. Boo.
Boo.
And here's what the OED has to tell us. A high officer, the representative of the royal authority in a shire, who presided in the shire moot and was responsible for the administration of the royal domain and the execution of the law. After the conquest, the office of sheriff was continued, that title being retained in English documents, while in Latin and French the usual term was viscount, which had been applied to similar functionaries in Normandy. Fascinating. Now, in the later English feudal system, a reeve was a lower-ranking official, usually like an estate manager, somebody who'd supervise the peasants working the estate, make sure the farm was producing enough food, manage the books, and so on, make sure there were no dragons burning in the countryside, all on behalf of the lord who owned the estate. Sorry, the mention of the peasants.
Gotta watch out for those burninations, man.
Dragar.
And of course, just about anybody who's studied English literature is probably immediately thinking of Chaucer's reeve from the Canterbury Tales. The most well-known reeve in English literature, with the possible exception of Christopher Reeve, who played Superman in several movies in the 1980s.
Fine. Or George Reeves, who played Superman on TV in the 1950s.
Yeah, or Keanu Reeves, who was in those movies where, what was the one where he fought Elrond with the Kung Fu? I don't know. Anyway, we digress.
Fought Elrond with Kung Fu. I like it. Yeah.
But Chaucer's reeve, getting back to real literature, was a pretty awful guy. He was smart. He was a shrewd businessman, but he was grouchy and dishonest and corrupt and vindictive and smelled bad and all kinds of things.
Wow.
His tale, the Reeve's tale, which comes third in the book, is basically just him clapping back at a perceived slight towards him in the Miller's tale, which comes immediately before it. So like the whole thing is just like vindictiveness.
Yeah.
And it's pretty vulgar to boot. And as we discussed many seasons ago when we first talked about this, it seems like that was kind of the stereotype of reeves that existed in the Middle Ages. They were kind of seen as, they were working class people. They kind of held this sort of middle management job, but they were kind of seen as not afraid to backstab other working class people or even upper class people or steal from their bosses and stuff like that to get ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wonderful, charming folks, these reeves. Yeah.
Very, very much so. Yeah.
Now, of course, Tolkien certainly knew that. I mean, he'd done academic work on the Reeve's Tale in 1931 in a paper called Chaucer as a Philologist, The Reeve's Tale. So, clearly very well acquainted with the work. Now, the paper focused on Chaucer's use of dialects for humor in the Reeve's Tale, specifically the fact that Chaucer made fun of the Northern English dialect in this tale, similar to the way a modern English writer might make fun of Scottish, Welsh, Yorkshire, or even American dialects, according to Tolkien. Now, Tolkien says that Chaucer made a linguistic joke in his use of Northern dialect in this tale, quote, now one at which only a philologist can laugh sincerely.
And I love that Tolkien points that out for us in his essay, because we'd never catch the joke, I'm sure.
No, and therefore we couldn't laugh sincerely at it, right?
Right, yeah.
Specifics aside, though, Tolkien knew Chaucer's reeve well, and perhaps we shouldn't be surprised to see the hobbit Shire reeves behaving in some nasty ways as well. I mean, in a sense, they are betraying the Shire by doing the dirty work of this corrupt regime, even though some of them, at least, seem to be ashamed of themselves for doing so.
Yeah, I mean, we see some of that. I mean, the best ones, like we're going to see Hob Hayward, they at least know what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah, Robin Smallborough, too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Some of them, though, don't even seem to realize that what they're doing is wrong.
Right.
Even the ones that do, though, they're complicit, or they're at least following the orders of this corrupt regime. And we'll see that some of them have been frightened into it, coerced. But they're not standing up for the common hobbit the way our heroes are about to do.
That is correct. I am really excited to get to this story with you. So let's go ahead and get started. Shawn, would you start our reading tonight?
I would be happy to. It was after nightfall when, wet and tired, the travelers came at last to the Brandywine, and they found the way barred. At either end of the bridge there was a great spiked gate, and on the further side of the river they could see that some new houses had been built, 2-storied with narrow, straight-sided windows, bare and dimly lit, all very gloomy and un-Shire-like. They hammered on the outer gate and called, but there was at first no answer. And then, to their surprise, someone blew a horn, and the lights in the windows went out. A voice shouted in the dark, "Who's that? Be off! You can't come in! Can't you read the notice? No admittance between sundown and sunrise!" "Of course we can't read the notice in the dark," Sam shouted back. "And if hobbits of the Shire are to be kept out in the wet on a night like this, I'll tear down your notice when I find it." With that, a window slammed, and a crowd of hobbits with lanterns poured out of the house on the left. They opened the further gate, and some came over the bridge. When they saw the travelers, they seemed frightened. "Come along," said Merry, recognizing one of the hobbits. "If you don't know me, Hob Hayward, you ought to. I am Merry Brandybuck, and I should like to know what all this is about, and what a Bucklander like you is doing here. You used to be on the Haygate." "Bless me, it's Master Merry, to be sure, and all dressed up for fighting," said old Hob. "Why, they said you was dead. Lost in the old forest, by all accounts. I'm pleased to see you alive, after all." "Then stop gaping at me through the bars and open the gate," said Merry. "I'm sorry, Master Merry, but we have orders." "Whose orders?" "Well, the chief's up at Bag End." "Chief? Chief? Do you mean Mr. Lotho?" said Frodo. "I suppose so, Mr. Baggins, but we have to say just the chief nowadays." "Do you indeed?" said Frodo. "Well, I'm glad he's dropped the Baggins at any rate. But it is evidently high time that the family dealt with him and put him in his place." A hush fell on the hobbits beyond the gate. "It won't do no good talking that way," said one. "He'll get to hear of it. And if you make so much noise, you'll wake the chief's big man."
Thank you, Shawn. Good reading. I enjoy that. It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
After the end of last chapter, when Merry felt like, it's like a dream that's slowly faded, and then Frodo feels more like falling asleep again, we join the hobbits as they arrive at the Brandywine River on the border of the Shire.
That's right. And it's been a 40-mile journey since Bree, and most of that, 36 of the 40 miles, has been since Gandalf left the road to go visit with Tom.
That's right. Now that you're here, though, Shawn, I do have to kind of go back to the end of last chapter. I want to get your input on what James and I just talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Sure.
Let's talk about the difference between Merry's feeling about a fading dream and Frodo's feeling like falling asleep again, right? We're going to be revisiting Frodo's feelings a lot over these last two chapters. And while James and I speculated at length about the contents of that conversation between Gandalf and Tom, I have to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting comment by Tolkien to have this exchange between Merry and Frodo. And I think what we're seeing here is that, for Merry and for Pippin, and I think even for Sam to some extent, this has been an adventure a little bit like Bilbo's There and Back Again. They're coming back to the Shire, and it's all over. It's going to end for them soon.
Yeah.
Sure, they've been ennobled by the experience. They've made friends. They remain vassals of Gondor and Rohan, and Pippin and Merry's case.
Yeah.
But it's over now and they're coming back home.
Yeah.
Frodo can't do that. Frodo is forever changed by his experience. He can never go back home in the same way that his friends can. He's kind of crossed over in sort of a mystical way. I'm kind of thinking about some of the things that Verlin Flieger says about him in Splintered Light and how, he becomes a vessel for this light. And I think that has changed him. He's sort of crossed over to the other side. I know that sounds a little, I don't know. It sounds a little
mystical, like you said, or
yeah.
But there is some good sense to that.
There is some truth to that. I think, he's the first one we're told to be an elf friend, and that has changed him. And again, just I think the experience, the trauma has changed him. And I kind of feel like he's crossed over in a way that the world of the Ring and Mordor and elves and everything outside the Shire is now more real to him than the Shire itself is. It's kind of sad, really.
More real. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. You're right. I mean, it's not as though the Shire is any less real, but to him it's going to feel less real, less substance than what he's been experiencing. Yeah.
And I don't know how to put that in terms that's not so mystical. Maybe if you tried to bring it down to earth a little bit, it's just the idea that this world, this microcosm, this, sort of sheltered world of the Shire is never going to feel real, knowing what evil and what good is out there.
That's true. Good stuff. Well, thank you, Shawn. I remember thinking, I wanted to get your input on this as well. It's such a key moment.
It's a great statement. It is one of those that, like, you read it when you're a kid and you're like, okay, whatever. But like as an older man, you can kind of reflect on it more. And
yeah, you really can.
Yeah.
And since that was the very tail end of the last chapter, it really segues into this, and it felt like it needed to be brought up here.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see that, and we're going to see Frodo behave in a way, like you said, we're going to be exploring his feelings a lot over these next few episodes.
Yeah.
We're going to see he is on a different level from the rest of the hobbits now.
He is, very much so.
Just spiritually, in terms of his wisdom, and it will keep coming back to that.
Interesting, though, we'll be comparing that to what he was in the drafts, which is maybe not quite as wise.
That's right. Yeah. There's some really interesting stuff in there, but he doesn't quite have that same spiritual growth that we're going to see.
That is true.
Anyway, back to the text. I mean, I can't help but wonder what conversations would have gone on between the four hobbits on that last leg of the journey. I mean, especially after, the end of the conversation with Gandalf. I mean, what kind of stuff do you think the hobbits are talking about now? Because
I mean, it's from that point, which, so that point is 4 miles from Bree, because we know that because when Tom leaves them, he says, go down the road in 4 miles, you're going to hit Bree. So, and we know it's 40 miles from Bree to the Shire. So, okay, 36 miles. So maybe 10 hours, 11 hours on the road together in the wet and the rain and miserable weather. They're going home. What are they talking about?
Yeah.
I would imagine they're probably speculating a little bit about, what we saw them speculate at the end of the last chapter. Oh, I wonder what's wrong with the Shire. Right. I mean,
could be. Yeah.
Old Lotha's at the bottom of it. Well, and like Gandalf said before he left, maybe not the very bottom. And
there probably is some speculation. This is more than just the usual kind of stuff that I would say at the end of a road trip when I'm coming home. Like, man, I can't wait I
got to do the laundry. I got to unpack.
But I'm looking forward to petting my cats and, maybe just, sleeping in my own bed. And it's not that. I think you're right. I think they're going to be speculating. And that really makes everything they're about to see just kind of hit harder in a way, because they kind of know this is coming, but they don't know the extent to which.
No, and the extent it gets revealed to us sort of slowly over the next few pages. I mean, it hits you in the face first at this gate that we'll get to, but it goes from, I think we make this point later, it goes from annoying to oppressive very, very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
So they get to the Brandywine very late, right? It's after nightfall on October 30th. They've been journeying this distance in rainy weather. We don't know if it's rained on them the entire time, but we know they left Bree and it was rainy weather.
That's right. And as Gandalf knew and suggested or implied, I mean, there was actually a gate at the bridge now.
2 gates, actually, and spiked at that.
And that's true, yeah.
Quite unwelcoming, quite un-Shire-like. And speaking of un-Shire-like, we even have these gloomy 2-story houses on the Shire side of the river.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of new construction that's happened since the hobbits have left.
And not very hobbity construction either.
Not very hobbity at all, yeah. So calling out and banging on the gate doesn't do anything at first, but eventually they hear a blowing horn and then the lights go out. Interesting that the lights don't go on. They were on and then they go off.
Maybe they don't want to present themselves as a target. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't want to be backlit for the archers.
Maybe so.
I don't know. It's weird though that they turn the lights out instead of on.
Right, because normally it's the exact opposite. Normally people would be relaxing with lights off and you knock and the light
getting ready to go
on.
to bed, it's late at night and then we got to turn the lights to go see who's out there. Yeah.
Yeah. This is almost like, when there's a knock on the door and it's like somebody selling something and you just like
trying to pretend you're not
quiet. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's almost like what this feels like.
Yeah. Except
that they actually do shout at them to leave.
Right.
Oh, you can't come in between sundown and sunrise. Can't you read the sign? Come on.
Well, it's dark, so no, not exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just turned off the only light that was on anywhere around here. So yeah. And Sam's response is great. No, of course I can't read the sign in the dark.
You idiots. Yeah.
Definitely knows he's going to get a response out of this.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that Sam is the one taking the lead here, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
He has not had too many chances to lead since he left. And we are already seeing a difference to the Sam he was when he left the Shire all those months ago, aren't we?
Absolutely. I mean, think about what he's gone through over these intervening months, especially in the last couple of weeks leading up to the destruction of the ring. He's really had to grow a lot and take on that leadership role. Certainly not going to be the last time we see him showing that sort of leadership.
No, that's true.
Of course, Sam has definitely, as he intended, piqued the interest of the residents of the building. So hobbits just flood out of the house. And they do open the far gate. Some of them actually have the courage to start coming over the bridge toward the hobbits. Most of them stay back by the house.
That's
It's kind of a comical scene. All these like little hobbits running out of the dark.
Just running out. Yeah.
Oh,
like,
man.
what are you guys going to do? Come on. Seriously. Now, it's interesting. In an earlier draft where Homeward Bound and Scouring in the Shire were actually one united text, Gandalf actually had not left yet.
That's right.
So he would have been here for this.
He was there. And in fact, Tolkien has him speak in this moment in one of those drafts. Right after Sam threatens to tear down the notice, Gandalf says, "Come along now," said the wizard. "My name is Gandalf, and here is a brandy buck, a toque, a baggins, and a gamgee. So if you don't open up quick, there will be more trouble than you bargained for, and long before sunrise."
That's right.
I wish that had still been the case.
I mean, that would have been cool to see Gandalf,
Yeah.
cut these guys down a bit. But obviously,
No.
this needs to be our four guys, doesn't it?
Yeah, like James and I were talking about. He's not my circus, not my monkeys. I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to see the hobbits solving their own problems. They've been educated. They've been trained. They know how to deal with this now.
They
and
do.
They're going to show how they can deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Interestingly, though, going back to that early draft, later in the same section, when Merry talks about waking up the chief's big man, the draft actually had Gandalf saying those lines. And then Frodo before finally landing on Merry.
All right. We're going to see a lot of fun stuff in the draft. I think mostly starting with the next couple of episodes, sort of when the fighting really begins. But
yeah.
So back to the text here, the actual published version. The hobbits make it over the bridge. That is, they make it from the back gate to the front gate where our hero hobbits are. And they are suddenly a little scared by what they see. And it's not a surprise. I mean, you remember, as we saw in the last chapter, the appearance of these four was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And it even said in the last chapter, they themselves had become so used to warfare and to riding in well-arrayed companies that they had quite forgotten that the bright mail peeping from under their cloaks and the helms of Gondor and the Mark and the fair devices on their shields would seem outlandish in their own country.
That's right. And that's even without Gandalf,
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And he was even more outlandish, riding on his tall gray horse, all clad in white with a great mantle of blue and silver overall and the long sword glamouring at his side.
Yeah.
I'd say, though, his presence would help. But yeah, definitely they're appearing a bit outlandish to these Shire folk.
Yeah, and at every turn, they will show that they're not ordinary hobbits anymore as we go through this chapter.
Not even close.
So Merry recognizes one of the hobbits in the crowd, and he calls out to him. It's Hob Hayward, who, as Merry points out, is a Bucklander like himself.
That's right.
Now let's talk a little bit about Hob's name. In Tolkien's nomenclature, the professor tells us that a Hayward is a local official with the duty of inspecting fences and keeping cattle from straying. And Tolkien points to its use in the prologue, where it is said that sheriffs had, of course, no uniforms, such things being quite unknown, only a feather in their caps, and they were in practice rather Haywards than policemen, more concerned with the strayings of beasts than of people.
Right. Now, Tolkien then goes on to explain in the nomenclature that in that form, the word is obsolete. It really just survives in the surname itself of Hayward. But in this case, quote, Hob was supposed actually to be a Hayward, end quote. So it's rather like a man named Smith being the town blacksmith.
Yeah, it's like one of those things like, well, with that name, what else are you going to do?
Right, exactly. Your career is defined for you, sir.
Yeah, right.
So now, just as a reminder, folks, despite the word hay in the name, it has nothing to do with grass or cattle feed or anything. In this context, hay means fence. And Tolkien has already given us some Buckland place names with that example, like the High Hay, the Hay Gate, and even Hay's End.
That's right. So hay is fence. And of course, ward means guard. So hay ward, fence guard.
Right.
Now, finally, remembering that the nomenclature was actually something Tolkien put together not just to be an interesting source of word nerdery, which it is.
Thank goodness he did, but yeah.
Thank goodness. But it was actually something he created to help translators. Tolkien suggests that if the language that the Lord of the Rings is being translated into, quoting here, possesses an old compound of similar sense, so much the better.
Yeah.
The Dutch translation used a word that we're not going to try to pronounce ourselves. But here's one of our Dutch friends, Dirk, pronouncing it.
Schutmeester.
I will try to pronounce that. Schutmeester.
Better you than me, sir.
I don't know. Dirk, reach out to me. Let me know how I did.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Dirk, by the way. I really appreciate that. Now, as another one of our Dutch friends, Erwin, tells us, this is very close to what Tolkien intended with the word Hayward. He says the direct translation is shot master, And a man in this position was the head of a local armed militia of volunteers. So very much like the sheriffs. Now, in the nomenclature, Tolkien goes on to say that the Swedish word stängselvakt, or hedge watch, is, I think, made for the purpose. Stängsel means fence and vakt means guard. So, yeah, fence guard, hedge watch, Hayward.
Interesting.
And my Swedish friends will tell me how poorly I did stängselvakt.
Oh, and I'm sure Dirk and Erwin will both reach out to let me how badly I said skyttemeester.
Yeah,
But very cool. These are cool words. I like these.
They are. I like them. Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we know all about Hob Hayward's name, let's go back to the unfortunate fellow now after Mary calls him out.
He seems genuinely happy to see Mary. That's Master Mary to you, commoner. But more than a bit surprised. I mean, after all, the stories around here suggest he died, not in battle at the Bucklander, but right next door in the old forest. Right. I love it.
Nothing about the stuff he actually did, because I mean, of course, we're laughing about it, but of course, how would they know?
No.
But yeah, it's humorous in a way.
It really is. Yeah. He didn't make it very far.
Right. Right. Exactly. And, look, we've accompanied the hobbits on a lot of adventures since they entered the old forest on, what was it, September 26th of the previous year?
Yeah.
Enough so that we see the old forest as a minor threat compared to all the stuff they actually have been through. Like, are you kidding me? The old forest?
Sure, it was life-threatening for Merry and Pippin,
That's true when they first left home.
Along.
That is true. But still, child's play compared to some of the stuff they've actually been
Everything
through.
else after that, yeah.
Yeah.
The Barrows, Weathertop, Moria. I mean, come on.
Not long after the old forest, they immediately found themselves in some really, really threatening situations.
Exactly, they did. Yeah.
But going back to sort of the Shire perspective on this, let's remind ourselves what some people in the Shire thought of the old forest by going back to, we're going to go back to a Conspiracy Unmasked here, right?
That's right.
And this is Fredegar Bolger's reaction when Mary said that he'd actually been in several times, usually in daylight, of course, when the trees are sleepy and fairly quiet.
Yeah, Bolger was none too pleased. He was, mouth agape, quite shocked. And he acknowledged he's more afraid of the old forest than of anything I know about. The stories about it are a nightmare. And he even said that going into the old forest was quite as dangerous as black riders.
Okay, Fatty.
Sweet summer child. Yeah, that's a little
sweet
naive.
Summer child.
Definitely an overstatement. I mean, like we said, it was a dangerous place thanks to Old Man Willow, but nowhere near as dangerous as, a dozen or so other places that these hobbits have been.
No, and it's hard to imagine the old forest being as dangerous to the hobbits if they were going through it now.
Oh, yeah.
They're better travelers than they were. They wouldn't make a stupid mistake like they did.
No, they would not.
But even though old Hob is happy to see Mary, who is, of course, the future master of Buckland, he still won't open the gate for Mary because, the chief, he's issued orders.
Yeah, oh boy.
And even though we're clearly told that Lotho is the chief, they can't refer to him by name anymore. It's just the chief. This is kind of like not calling a dictator by their name, like, dear leader or something like that.
Our dear leader, our esteemed king. Yeah, but not even naming him, right?
Right.
Oh, man. Of course, interestingly, he's the chief here, right? As that means he's the chief sheriff. But in an earlier version, he was actually more than that. Hob says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Merry, but we have orders." Whose orders? The mayor's, Mr. Merry, and the chief sheriff's. Who's the mayor? Said Frodo. Mr. Sackville of Bag End. Oh, is he indeed? Said Frodo. And who's the chief sheriff? Mr. Sackville of Bag End. I can't even read it with a straight face. He just gives the same name.
I know.
Both. Oh, indeed. Well, I'm glad he's dropped the Baggins at least, and he'll leave Bag End too if I hear any more nonsense.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
We get the thing about dropping the Baggins there.
Yes. Yeah.
And he literally did drop the Baggins. He kept Sackville.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Sackville of Bag End. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And I think it's great that in both versions, it's actually Frodo, the one responding about the family name, because of course he is, because he's the guy who's ruining Frodo's own good name.
I should add, by the way, because they were in brackets in the text from Sauron Defeated, but it's Cosimo at this point still. It's not Lotho. But it is the same guy. So that's why I dropped it in reading it, but it was in brackets anyway.
So this talk has some of the hobbits on the other side of the gate spooked. Not only is the chief going to get word of this, and spoilers, he will.
Yep.
But you don't want to do this because you're likely to wake his big man.
Oh boy, I'm scared. So Neither is Merry. In the part we had to skip, he's definitely unimpressed. Merry has seen battle, right? I mean, he is bloodied. He is tested. This guy hamstrung the Witch King, for crying out loud. He is not scared of a ruffian.
Not one bit.
Not at all.
Not one bit. He gets down off his pony. He spots this no admittance sign, tears it off, and tosses it over the gate. A little bit of civil disobedience here.
I know, exactly. Like, we're done with this, and we're just going to climb over the gate. He and Pippin go over. No need for overwhelming numbers of, say, 4. Like,
No,
2 will do. I love that. So
2
confident.
kind of big ones, but
2
still.
very big ones, yeah. And then, of course, the hobbits scatter because, let's be honest, they're hobbits. And
They
these
don't
are
know what to do.
armed, armored, bold, courageous guys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They are not ready for this.
No.
They are not equipped, prepared.
Chief does not
trained.
pay me enough for this.
That's right. That's right. I'm gone.
Throw me in the lock holes. I don't care.
Although somebody has actually blown a horn, which is
Yeah.
a bit disconcerting.
Yeah, one of the hobbits, clearly, because it's not the guy, as we'll find out.
That's right. That's right. Because that's when a big person actually steps out of the other house. So we've got hobbit guards living in the house, or not living, but stationed in the house on the left or the south, and one man stationed in the house on the right.
And it is interesting that it's just the one guy, because only he comes out.
That's true. Yeah, he doesn't.
So
come
it's
out
like he's got that place to himself, whereas the hobbits all have to share the other place.
It's like they're half as big as you, but
that's right.
They're not like
they're not 1/10 the size,
an
but
eighth as big as you.
No, exactly, exactly. Well, we will also share something with you. Our ad break, and we'll come right back. Now, we'll get back just in time to see this ruffian turn tail and run in just a moment. But first, we want to remind you there's a lot more talk going on at the Prancing Pony podcast than just me and Shawn.
That's right. The PPP has an amazing listener community. They're always coming up with great questions and interesting discussions across all of our social media spaces. We ask you to check out our common room on Facebook, our dedicated subreddit, Twitter, and more.
Now, on Facebook, just look for the Prancing Pony podcast. Follow the page to get the news, but you're going to want to join the group to get in those great discussions.
Or if you prefer Reddit, you can find us there at r/prancingponypod. And on Twitter and Instagram, we're simply @prancingponypod.
That's right. And don't forget that you can get daily Tolkien content now by subscribing to Today's Tolkien Times on YouTube and all your favorite podcast apps. It's my short format daily show, been running for about a year now, with everything from Tolkien Tuesdays to Silmarillion Saturdays. Be sure to check it out at youtube.com/@TolkienTimes and follow @TolkienTimes on all your social media.
Definitely, absolutely worth it, and a lot of fun daily content there. If I do say so myself, and I don't feel too bad talking it up because it's you, it's not me. So, but yeah, you're doing some great stuff there.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump back into the text, and Alan, you're going to take the next reading for us.
All right, got to break out my Bill Ferny. "What's all this?" he snarled as he came forward. "Gate breaking? You clear out or I'll break your filthy little necks." Then he stopped, for he had caught the gleam of swords. "Bill Ferny," said Merry, "if you don't open that gate in 10 seconds, you'll regret it. I shall set steel to you if you don't obey. And when you have opened the gates, you will go through them and never return. You are a ruffian and a highway robber." Bill Ferny flinched and shuffled to the gate and unlocked it. "Give me the key," said Merry. But the ruffian flung it at his head and then darted out into the darkness. As he passed the ponies, one of them let fly with his heels and just caught him as he ran. He went off with a yelp into the night and was never heard of again. "Neat work, Bill," said Sam, meaning the pony. "So much for your big man," said Merry. "We'll see the chief later. In the meantime, we want a lodging for the night, and as you seem to have pulled down the Bridge Inn and built this dismal place instead, you'll have to put us up." "I am sorry, Mr. Merry," said Hob, "but it isn't allowed." "What isn't allowed?" "Taking in folk offhand-like and eating extra food and all that," said Hob. "What's the matter with the place?" said Merry. "Has it been a bad year or what? I thought it'd been a fine summer and harvest." "Well, no, the year's been good enough," said Hob. "We grows a lot of food, but we don't rightly know what becomes of it. It's all these gatherers and sharers, I reckon, going round counting and measuring and taking off to storage. They do more gathering than sharing, and we'd never see most of the stuff again. Oh, come, said Pippin, yawning. This is all too tiresome for me tonight. We've got food in our bags. Just give us a room to lie down in. It'll be better than many places I have seen. And they do just that, as we'll talk about in a bit. For now, though, I'm skipping ahead. Well, now, what about a smoke while you tell us what has been happening in the Shire? He said. Well, there isn't no pipeweed now, said Hob. At least only for the chief's men. All the stock seem to have gone. We do hear that wagon loads of it went away down the old road out of the south farthing, over Sarn Ford way. That would be the end of last year after you left. But it had been going away quietly before that, in a small way. That Lotho— Now you shut up, Bob Hayward, cried several of the others. You know talk of that sort isn't allowed. The chief will hear of it, and we'll all be in trouble. He wouldn't hear naught if some of you here weren't sneaks, rejoined Hob hotly. All right, said Sam. That's quite enough. I don't want to hear no more. No welcome, no beer, no smoke, and a lot of rules and orc talk instead. I hope to have a rest, but I can see there's work and trouble ahead. Let's sleep and forget it till morning.
I love Sam.
Sam's advice.
He's just like,
him.
Man, I'm tired, dude. I just want to
drink, smoke, and hang out.
I just want to smoke and have a beer and just hang out. But no, a lot of rules and orc talk.
So rules and orc talk. Love that.
Let's go back to the beginning of that passage when, at the sound of the horn, out strolls alpha male himself. But he's like the alpha male who has to tell everybody he's an alpha male all the time.
That's right.
You know?
He has to constantly remind you, yeah.
Yeah. Bill Ferny, our old favorite. And he's immediately resorting to threats of violence.
Yeah. I mean, like right away. Yeah.
Yeah, because it probably works for him usually, because he's bigger than everybody else. But, those threats get stuck in his throat as soon as he sees some swords, don't they? It's like, yeah.
Arm.
Not to mention, swords held by giant hobbits.
That's true. I mean, if you remember until now, the largest hobbit had been Bandabrus Bullroarer-Took, who at 4 foot 5 inches tall could ride a horse. But right after we're told about him in the prologue, we read that he was surpassed in all hobbit records only by 2 famous characters of old.
That's right.
Curious matter is dealt with in this book.
And while we're never given a final height for Merry and Pippin, I mean, clearly based on that, they must be at least 4'6" at this point.
Yeah. 4'8", 4'9", probably. Yeah. Somewhere in that range.
At a minimum, 4'6". The 2 tallest hobbits that have ever been. And they're armed.
Yeah.
And they're wearing heavy armor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and they also carry themselves like warriors. They have that confidence.
Yeah.
That supreme confidence, really.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are battle tested.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And so when Merry orders Bill to open the gate and leave, well, shocker. That's exactly what he does.
Exit stage right.
That's right. You see his feet do that little spinning thing you see in cartoons. Yeah.
His eyes get all big, like as big as his face. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he does leave, but he doesn't manage to completely leave unscathed. Bill the pony kicks him, and he is thanked by a grateful Sam, and we all rejoice.
Yeah, Bill the pony, MVP of this chapter,
That's
there.
right.
That's great.
Man, I love that moment.
MVP, most valuable pony, of course.
Of course.
All right, then, with the quote unquote big man gone, it's time to rest for the night.
That's right.
Sorry,
the big man.
Laughing to myself about why he has to tell everybody how big he is. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's
I'm just saying.
He's compensating for something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Again, if you have to say it, you're probably not. Anyway.
Yeah.
So the big man's gone and it's time to rest for the night. There had been an inn here previously, the aptly named Bridge Inn, but it's gone now.
Yeah.
They've put up this dismal place instead. So Merry suggests, hey, well, you're just going to have to put us up yourselves.
Yeah, we got to stay somewhere.
Yep.
But that's when we get the beginning of these onerous rules.
Yeah.
No taking in of people, no eating extra food. But that's just the start of these rules, as we'll see. And then, of course, Hob is able to explain, look, no, the harvest was good enough, but it's these gatherers and sharers that have been taking food away. And I definitely want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, this has always been a fascinating phrase. And Yeah, it would appear to have sort of a possible real world analog in socialism. But I think we should maybe take a look at a couple of Tolkien's letters to shed some light on this. And look, folks, don't worry. We're going to avoid contemporary politics as we always do. We're just going to talk about this historically from Tolkien's perspective and what Tolkien experienced.
That's right. So in letter number 181, this is a series of drafts to Michael Straight, the editor at the time of the New Republic. Tolkien was answering a question about whether Scouring of the Shire was, quote, directed especially to contemporary England. And of course, we know that a lot of people have wrote in and thought it might be the case. Now, Tolkien first responds with a line that we've talked about more than once, the part where he says the Shire was, to an extent, sort of modeled on his experience of an almost rural village of Warwickshire about the time of the Diamond Jubilee. That's how we get the kind of the time frame. It's why we see things like a clock on the mantelpiece and stuff.
That's right. But then Tolkien makes it clear that, quote, there is no post-war reference. I am not a socialist in any sense, being averse to planning, as must be plain, most of all because the planners, when they acquire power, become so bad. But I would not say that we had to suffer the malice of Sharkey and his ruffians here.
And I think that's a pretty significant distinction, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's not saying that this is anything that was actually going on.
Absolutely. And that's despite the fact that he was pretty bothered by some of the gathering that was going on. In letter number 194A, which is actually only in the new revised and expanded collection, he's writing to his son Michael, and he laments that a socialist government will pretty well reduce me to penury, that means extreme poverty, on retirement. As it is, socialist legislation is robbing me of probably 3/4 of the fruits of my labors, and my royalties are merely waiting in the bank until the tax collectors walk in and bag them. Do you wonder that anyone who can gets out of this island?
So opposed to socialism, check. Yeah. Complaining about high tax rates, check. Still, I mean, like he said in his letter to Michael Straight, though, even that 75%, that 3/4 of the fruits of his labors that he was talking about, that wasn't as bad as Sharkey and his ruffians. It didn't rise quite to that level. I mean, again, they've been taking so much that Hobbes says they never see most of the stuff again. To me, this again, the 3/4 of the fruits of my labors just makes me think of the Beatles' Taxman, right? Remember? George Harrison says 1 for you, 19 for me. I mean, that's the kind of ratios we're talking about.
And that was the ratio at the time at the very top, the marginal tax rate was 95%.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. And precisely why, like a lot of I know a lot of British rock stars and stuff actually left to go to Greece and places like that.
Well, why wouldn't you if literally you're getting a nickel for every dollar you earn over every dollar, a certain amount,
or 5p for every pound you make. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, again, it's the marginal at the very top. So, you're not taxed that rate all the way up. But still, I mean, why would you then work hard to get anything over whatever that level is? Let's say it's $100,000 a year. Why would I want to earn $200,000 a year when I'm going to take home 105?
It's pretty egregious, really. Yeah. And that is the kind of thing that we're seeing here in the Shire. Not to mention, it's almost like 1984-ish in the way that they... the gatherers and the sharers, but the sharing never really happens. We're going to say share, but nobody's actually sharing anything. So, and if you're following along at home, we've now gone from George VI to George Harrison to George Orwell. So you're welcome.
Well played, sir. Well played. Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, the Shire is not post-war England, folks. Scouring of the Shire has nothing to do with that, and we just want to really make that clear.
That's right.
So Pippin's getting tired. It's been a long day since they left Bree, right? They left Bree early that morning. They've been traveling in wet weather all day. Just give us a place to get horizontal and we'll call it a day, right? And we've got our own food. Fine. Any place you put us is going to be better than a whole lot of places they've all been. And that's really, really true.
That's right. Even though these local hobbits could never possibly imagine anything this bad. But
no.
Yeah. And in the part that we skipped over, even just the idea of doing that still makes these poor cowed hobbits a bit uncomfortable. Yeah, but I mean, what are they going to do? These are 4 armed guys, 2 of whom, as we've said, are bigger than any hobbit they've ever seen because they're bigger than any hobbit that's ever
been, right?
And so, they're nervous about this. But Frodo wisely locks the gates behind them, sets a guard because there are ruffians around these parts.
That's right. So they get into the guardhouse. They do what they can, right? I mean, it's 4 walls, a roof, functional beds. It's about as Spartan as hobbits could survive. And here's the thing, right? When we go back and read the prologue, we know how much hobbits love their comforts. I have to say, I think this sort of living is even harder on the hobbits than it would be on us.
I mean, I like to think so. I like to think I could handle this kind of austerity more than more than
Than a
more
hobbit
than I probably
who's
could.
raised in soft comfort, but
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't like it. I'm more upset at the restrictions on freedom than the austere living conditions, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's rules and notices everywhere,
Yeah.
and they're stupid rules, right? I mean,
Yes,
these are
they
just
are.
ridiculous. And that's
Yeah.
why Pippin promptly takes him down.
Yeah.
I mean, but like, look at, I mean, it's like there's no beer, there's practically no food.
Yeah.
So, our hobbits being the heroes they're going to
Yeah.
share what they've got, right?
Absolutely. We even see one of the very specific rules here. It's number 4, and it has to do with how much wood they can put on the fire. I mean, man, this kind of micromanagement has got to stop. I would not work for anybody that level of absolute control.
Totally. This is like Ebenezer Scrooge.
It really is.
Don't use this piece of coal. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, they promptly disregard all these rules. And coming back to the text, Pippin suggests they all smoke a bit, catch up on what's been happening in the Shire. But
right.
Hobb explains that, hey, they don't have any pipeweed anymore.
No.
The only people who are getting pipeweed now are the chief's men, because of course they're the only ones.
Right.
There's no more stock of pipeweed anywhere. It was all sent south at the end of last year, he says, after the hobbits left.
That's right. Now, James and I talked about this when we were talking about what Bartleman was hinting at, back when he told the hobbits about the funny goings-on in the Shire, and we looked ahead to a conversation that we'll have with Farmer Maggot in, I think, our next episode, where he laid out the timeline.
That's right. He'd also indicated that it was at the end of last year when Lotho began sending away loads of stuff, not only Leaf.
Yeah.
So this was happening while the company were being chosen and were getting ready to leave Rivendell.
Exactly. Now, it had been being sent that way before, as Hobb suggests, and we learned about that when we looked at The Hunt for the Ring and Unfinished Tales. Soderman had long taken an interest in the Shire because Gandalf did, and he was suspicious of him. And because, again in secret imitation of Gandalf, he had taken to the halfling's Leaf and needed supplies. But in pride, having once scoffed at Gandalf's use of the weed, kept this as secret as he could. Latterly, other motives were added. He liked to extend his power, especially into Gandalf's province, and he found that the money he could provide for the purchase of Leaf was giving him power and was corrupting some of the hobbits, especially the Bracegirdles, who owned many plantations, and so also the Sackville Bagginses.
Very interesting. That some hobbits are more corruptible than others. That's really
right.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And speaking of the most corruptible of all, I mean, the mere mention of Lotho's name prompts the other hobbits to shout Hobb down.
Yeah.
They're saying that he'll hear about it and he'll bring them trouble. They are scared.
They're
scared to even mention his name.
Absolutely. And collective punishment, too, it sounds like, which is just, again,
right.
ruthless. Yeah.
Yeah. And in what I think might be the hardest thing to hear yet in this encounter, Hobb rightly comes back saying, look, Lotho wouldn't hear anything if some of you here weren't spying for him.
That is disheartening. Hobbits spying on hobbits to help.
Hobbits spying on hobbits.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
So and that's where we see again that some are doing it because they feel they have to. Some are really complicit in this. Some are really looking to try and get in the boss's favor. And
I think Robin Smallborough will sort of get to that point, right? He'll tell us a little bit about why that is. There are some folks who just, are drawn to power because they think it'll give them an advantage. Yeah. So like you said at the end, Sam has had enough, man. He's just over this. He complains about the lack of everything that's good about the Shire, hospitality, food, beer, smoke, as well as the presence of everything that is alien about the Shire, like the rules and the orc talk. This is flipping it on the head, isn't it?
That's right. It's not just the absence of all the good things. It's all these bad things that have been introduced as well. So this isn't just, evil as an absence. This is
it's a full negation of everything. All the things that was good about the Shire is gone. Yeah, exactly. An inversion.
Yeah. And now we see truly just what it means that this is all so un-Shire-like and that people are so un-Hobbit-like.
It's so disheartening.
I mean, the use of the word orc talk is pretty powerful there.
It really is. And we're talking here about how this has been accomplished in less than a year's time, really. And that is deeply terrifying. But in a way, it's encouraging because it says the Shire folk can adapt and we're going to adapt them back to normal very quickly. But not in this episode, folks. It's going to take time.
No.
Well, Shawn, would you pick up after that? And we'll find out real quickly that the chief did indeed hear word.
All right. The new chief evidently had means of getting news. It was a good 40 miles from the bridge to Bag End, but someone made the journey in a hurry. So Frodo and his friends soon discovered. They had not made any definite plans, but had vaguely thought of going down to Crick Hollow together first, and resting there a bit. But now, seeing what things were like, they decided to go straight to Hobbiton. So the next day, they set out along the road and jogged along steadily. The wind had dropped, but the sky was gray. The land looked rather sad and forlorn, but it was, after all, the 1st of November and the fag end of autumn. Still, there seemed an unusual amount of burning going on, and smoke rose from many points round about. A great cloud of it was going up far away in the direction of the woody end. As evening fell, they were drawing near to Frogmorton, a village right on the road, about 22 miles from the bridge. There they meant to stay the night. The floating log at Frogmorton was a good inn. But as they came to the east end of the village, they met a barrier with a large board saying "No Road," and behind it stood a large band of sheriffs with staves in their hands and feathers in their caps, looking both important and rather scared. "What's all this?" said Frodo, feeling inclined to laugh.
"This is what it is, Mr. Baggins," said the leader of the sheriffs, a two-feather hobbit. "You're arrested for gate-breaking, and tearing up of rules, and assaulting gatekeepers, and trespassing, and sleeping in Shire buildings without leave, and bribing guards with food."
"And what else?" said Frodo.
"That'll do to go on with," said the sheriff leader.
"I can add some more if you'd like it," said Sam. "Calling your chief names, wishing to punch his pimply face, and thinking you sheriffs look a lot of tomfools."
"There now, mister, that'll do. It's the chief's orders that you're to come along quiet. We're going to take you to Bywater and hand you over to the chief's men, and when he deals with your case you can have your say. But if you don't want to stay in the lockholes any longer than you need, I should cut the say short if I was you."
To the discomfiture of the sheriffs, Frodo and his companions all roared with laughter. "Don't be absurd," said Frodo. "I'm going where I please, and in my own time. I happen to be going to Bag End on business. But if you insist on going too, well, that is your affair."
"Very well, Mr. Baggins," said the leader, pushing the barrier aside. "But don't forget I've arrested you."
"I won't," said Frodo. "Never. But I may forgive you. Now I am not going any further today, so if you'll kindly escort me to the floating log, I'll be obliged."
"I can't do that, Mr. Baggins. The inn's closed. There's a sheriff house at the far end of the village. I'll take you there."
"All right," said Frodo. "Go on, and we'll follow."
Oh, man. Roared with laughter. I know we'll get to that, but
laughing in his face, dude.
Just
I love that.
Absolute total disrespect, and I love it. I'm
it's
here
great.
for it. Yeah,
it's wonderful.
So sure enough, like we said, Lotho has heard the news. Now, before we go any further, though, we have to do a little bit of a sidebar on this. We got to talk a little bit about Shire geography, and the truth is, I don't think we're going to come to any satisfactory answers because there's some variation. So. The text here tells us that the distance between the Brandywine Bridge and Bag End is a good 40 miles.
Right. But we've looked at the Shire a lot over all these podcast years and have learned a few things about it. First of all, from the prologue, we learn 40 leagues. Now that's 120 miles. It's stretched from the far downs to the Brandywine Bridge. So if that's true, then Bag End isn't anywhere near the middle of the Shire, but about 2/3 of the way to the east. So if the Shire is the U.S., and this is not to scale, but just
definitely not to scale. Relative, just the idea of relative distance,
right. But relative distance, if the Shire is the U.S., New York is the Brandywine, California is the far downs, that would put Bag End somewhere around Chicago, about 2/3 of the way to the east.
Exactly. So, okay, fine, it's not in the middle. The thing is, though, in the Shadow of the Past, we read about a conversation at the Green Dragon in Bywater, which is right next to Hobbiton, that even in the comfortable heart of the Shire, rumors had been heard. Okay, maybe we're talking a metaphor here, a comfortable heart. That's not really a geographic reference. It doesn't mean center. But what about the Three Farthing Stone? In the next chapter, The Grey Havens, Sam casts the extra dust from Galadriel up in the air at the Three Farthing Stone, which is said to be as near the center of the Shire as no matter.
And if you look at the Shire map in the book, the map called A Part of the Shire, the Three Farthing Stone really is in the center, or very close to it, with Hobbiton and Bywater just to the northwest. And if that map and both the 40 leagues across and 40 miles from the bridge to Bag End is correct, well, then we're missing about 40% of the map, all of which would be to the west.
I know. Huge tracts of land off to the west.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we are not the first to notice this inconsistency, as you might imagine. I don't think we're the first to have any of our observations. Let's be clear.
Think so, no.
Hammond and Skull mentioned it in the Reader's Companion, and they point us to a piece by David Cofield in the July 1994 issue of Beyond Bree. Now there, Cofield suggests that Tolkien didn't address this problem due to the haste with which the 1965 revisions had to be made, talking about the changes for the second edition in order to get the copyright protection in the States, thanks to that whole Ace paperback.
To protect
paperback
from the Ace Books thing.
Yeah,
that's right. Now, alternatively, he thinks it might be that Tolkien thought making the distance between the Brandywine Bridge and Bag End longer would have made it impossible for our 4 hobbits to get there in 2 days with the sheriff escort on foot.
True. That makes sense. He also suggests, and this I think is where I land, Tolkien envisaged a greater distance when writing the first chapters than he did when near the end. I mean, he can't keep track of every little thing, right?
No, that's right. Yeah,
some things are going to slip by.
That seems the most logical. And I mean, he had more attention to detail than most anybody else.
Everybody else, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's the kind of thing his editors wouldn't necessarily pick up on.
No.
So, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And there's nothing in Sauron Defeated about it. So folks may remember that Sauron Defeated is the volume of History of Middle-earth that includes this part near the end of Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. So Hammond and Skull actually attempt to give their own explanation. It's a little bit lengthy, so buckle up, folks. First, they use Frodo's estimate that they had about 18 miles to go in a straight line from just below Woodall to the Buckleberry Ferry to create a scale for the map, a part of the Shire, which does not have a scale reference on it.
Right.
Based on that, the distance from Hobbiton to the ferry is, as the crow flies, a little less than 70 miles.
Now, that would make the distance from the bridge to Bag End 62 miles or so, not the 40. And so then Hammond and Skull go back to the distances in this chapter, Frogmorton being about 22 miles from the bridge and Bywater 18 miles from Frogmorton, and they recalculate based on that scale. And they conclude in that case, it would be about 30 miles from the bridge to Frogmorton and 27 miles more to Bywater.
And in turn, that would put the distance from the bridge to the Three Farthing Stone at about 51 miles, which is a lot closer to the halfway point of a 120-mile wide Shire.
That's true. Yeah.
So that works a lot better.
That does. So they've kind of rescaled the map, if you will.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cartography lesson's over. Let's get back to the text. Somebody covered the distance overnight and a good chunk of the way back the next day, too. Even if we use Tolkien's shorter distances as described in this chapter, it's 22 miles to Frogmorton, 18 miles more to Bywater, and then another 18 miles back to Frogmorton. That's 58 miles in about 20 hours total.
That's more than 2 marathons in less than a day.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully there was a pony involved. I don't know.
On hobbit legs. No,
right.
They call them runners.
That's true, yeah.
So I think they were talking about on foot. But
that's wild.
Sequential, obviously. It's not one guy. One very tired hobbit.
Thank you. Okay, because I'm like, man, that's impressive.
Robin Smallburrows, we'll see later on in the chapter or in this discussion tonight, actually says they keep runners stationed.
Okay,
so
that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they relay the message.
Yeah.
From runner. Okay, I was about to be man.
Yeah, those hobbits are
like
going to
the Jesse Owens of hobbits out here.
Seriously, 58 miles in 20 hours for one guy. Ooh.
So our 4 heroes don't have a precise plan at this point. Their original thought was they were going to head into Buckland, they were going to go to Crick Hollow, get some rest, and they were going to go from there.
Makes sense.
But now, seeing what's going on, they got to deal with this. They're going straight to the heart of the problem in Hobbiton.
Yeah, kind of like Sam said, now we've got problems to solve, right? It would have been nice to chill, but not an option. So they head west in the morning, moving along at a steady pace in this sad and forlorn weather. Once again, I feel like the real world reflecting some of the elements in the story, as it so often does.
The dreariness of the sky and the weather,
And we're given a precise date here for the first time in a little bit. It's November 1st. I mean, the rest of the time we're just having to, reference the tale of years. But now we actually get a date, the 1st of November. It's also the date visible on the mug shots of the 4 hobbits after their arrest. Oh, man.
I want posters of
those. I do. I want a poster of the 4 of them, with their wanted, with the little.
Yeah. That's right. Now, before we go on, I do want to just bring this up just to quell any concerns about one of Tolkien's words that he uses here.
Yeah.
The fag end of something is the last part or remnant of anything after the best part of that thing has been used. You can think of it as sort of the extreme end or the tail end of something. The reference is basically to a cigarette butt.
Exactly.
It's the last little bit,
Yeah.
which, you would only bother with if you're a smoker in dire straits, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Speaking of smoke, they notice a lot of smoke in the air. I thought this was interesting. It's a very subtle hint, and it feels to me like we're seeing some indications maybe of the presence of some of that industry that has been moving in.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of many things in this chapter that reminds me immediately of Isengard.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So as evening approaches, and they've traveled either 22 miles per this chapter's measurement or about 30 miles based on Hammond and Skull's extrapolated distance, they're just about at Frogmorton.
And we read a little bit about this name in the nomenclature where Tolkien explains that while it isn't an actual English place name, it has the same elements as Frogmore, which is an English place name, frog plus moor, and then adding the word town, or tun in this case.
Right. And he writes that Frogmorton represents an older Froggen Mere Tun, village by the Frogmere. It possibly does not actually occur in modern England, but familiar names of a similar pattern do. For example, Throckmorton.
There we go. So the Morton is definitely, something that we see in place names.
That Mere Tun.
Yeah.
More plus
town
town
near the mere. Yeah. So they figured to spend the night at the inn there. The floating log, which certainly suggests the sort of wetlands that would lead to the name Frogmorton.
Yeah.
If, of course, that inn hasn't been torn down like the Bridge Inn.
Yeah, but they don't get into town itself because the
No.
road is closed, and they're met with a makeshift barrier manned by sheriffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Tolkien's description here. I hope I did it justice.
You did.
With staves in their hands and feathers in their caps, looking both important and rather scared.
Yeah, that was a perfect pause when you did that. I love that. I am
Good,
very important and terrified.
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
I don't know I've never done this before.
By the way, the feathers in their cap thing, of course, many of you are going to be familiar with the idiom "a feather in your cap." It is believed to have been derived from the custom that exists in some cultures of warriors adding a new feather to their hat for every enemy slain, which makes their appearance here kind of a bit of a joke.
Yeah, can't imagine this is an actual body count for any of these hobbits, no. Though it's also something that's used in Scotland and Wales, where the hunter who kills the first woodcock plucks a feather from it and puts that in his cap. Still related to the kill.
Exactly. Now, of course, today the phrase simply means something like an accomplishment to be proud of, which would also still make the use of feathers in their caps a bit of a joke on Tolkien's part.
Yeah, it totally does.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, Frodo's in on the joke too, because he is moved to laughter at all of this.
He's restraining
I love
himself
that.
for now. Yeah.
He just asks what the deal is. And come on, guys, what is going on
You've
here?
got to be kidding me. Yeah.
The leader of the sheriffs, who we do not get his name, but watch out, big guy here has got 2 feathers in his hat.
Oh, no.
he tries to lay down the law because he's the big hobbit in charge here.
That's right.
He lets our heroes know that they're arrested for various crimes. I love this.
Charges.
This is like,
this is
like when you get pulled over for speeding and then they just start adding stuff like,
busted
you got a tail light out and,
you got your hair parted on the wrong side.
yeah, right. There's a Burger King wrapper on the floor,
That's right.
all kinds of stupid stuff.
Oh, the list of charges is really hilarious, but nowhere near as funny as Sam's custom additions.
So good. So good.
Wanting to punch his pimply face. Sam is just feisty as ever, and we are absolutely here for it.
Absolutely. If Bill the Pony was the MVP, Sam is the MVH. Absolutely.
That's right.
So great. So the big bad two-feather sheriff leader tells them that they've been ordered to come with them to Bywater, where they'll be taken directly by the chief's men. So clearly, the Hobbit sheriffs are clearly subordinate to the chief's men. They're escalating this.
That's
is
right.
One above their pay grade.
Tier 2. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the first mention of the lock holes in the text.
Yes,
and
it is.
Obviously, they're precisely what they sound like.
Yeah.
It's sort of a Hobbit's version of a jail of sorts.
Tolkien explains that in the nomenclature there. The Hobbit version of lockup house, a place of detention.
There you go. And we find out later from Farmer Cotton that they're the old storage tunnels at Mitchell Delving that they've made into prisons for those as stand up to them.
I think it's really interesting, though, and insightful that the Shire didn't have a jail of any kind until the ruffians turned old storage tunnels into prison cells. And it made me think, When we read in the prologue, because we've been spending a lot of time in the prologue, sort of getting a feel again for what the hobbits are like, we learned back then that the hobbits kept the laws of free will because they were the rules, as they said, both ancient and just. Now, these rules are neither ancient nor just.
Right.
But I think there is a hobbity mindset of just following the rules.
I think that's exactly right. I think if they recognize that the rules are just and have authority, and that's, they're ancient, so therefore they have authority, they're just going to follow them because they're rule followers by nature.
So there's no need for jails.
They had no police force.
Well, that's why the sheriffs, all 12 of them, for the entire Shire, were Haywards, right? They were just more concerned about fences and animals. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So it is very telling that they needed a jail suddenly.
Yeah.
And it's very sad.
It
just shows how far the Shire has fallen.
Agreed.
But to get us a little comic relief, Frodo is, he was on the verge of laughter when they got stopped, but
now,
none of them can hold it in any longer.
Uproarious.
Frodo tells the head sheriff, like, this is total nonsense, dude. We are going where we want, when we want.
We're you and whose army, right?
Try and stop us,
The good news for you, Mr. Two-Feather, is that we're going to Bag End anyway. And if you want to come along, well, that's your business.
I love that.
The guy still just will not let it go. The hilarious reminder from the leader, well, just don't forget I've arrested you.
I know. Like, dude, if you have to say that, you're not in control of the
Exactly.
situation.
Just
I'm
let
sorry,
it go, man.
Mr. Two-Feather. Yeah. What do you make of Frodo's response to that, though? About don't forget.
Oh, when he says, like, I may forgive you?
Yeah. Is that, you think that's tongue-in-cheek, or you think that's a bit ominous?
Yes. It's a little bit of both, I think. I mean, really, a week from now, he won't remember who arrested him. He won't care. But at the same time, it's a reminder to the sheriffs that what you do is important, and it's going to be remembered. You don't want to go down on the wrong side of history.
That's right.
And these guys aren't going to go down on the wrong side of history, at least the ones that did this willingly. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think he's making light of it because he can't help but do so, because this is ridiculous after everything he's gone through.
It is comedy. It really is. Yeah.
But I think it is kind of ominous too, because like you say, these guys are going to be on the wrong side of history, and the reckoning is coming soon. And it's going to be Frodo and his friends who have say over what happens to these guys.
That's right.
And I do think he's just pointing that out. Like, we're the ones that you're going to want to be. Exactly. You're going to want to be on our good side.
You may be arresting us, quote unquote, right? You know, but we're the ones who have the power here. And when we set all to rights, we're going to be dealing with people like you. Do you want to be dealt with as the absolute moron who decided it was okay to arrest us? Or do you want to be treated as the guy who's like, you know what? No, that's all right. We'll just come along.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet, instead of a threat, instead of, you'll be sorry when we're back on top, when we set all this right, you're going to be sorry. He doesn't say that. He says, I may forgive you. And I think that shows us Frodo's spiritual growth. I think that's one of those things that shows us that Frodo he's risen above the other hobbits in a way. It shows that he is no longer concerned with things like revenge. He truly has the moral high ground here.
Yeah. Yeah, he really does.
I dare say he probably feels pity for them, probably a little bit like he did for Gollum. They've been corrupted.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, because later on he expresses pity even for Lotho. He knows he's just gotten in too deep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I do love that moment. Anyway, at Frodo's bidding, the sheriff leader agrees to take them to the sheriff house.
What other choice does he have?
But it's on the other side of town. But I mean, that's where they have to go because, of course, the floating log is closed.
Now, at least it's not torn down like the bridge in, but the lawyer in me feels like this is a per se taking of the floating log. But then again, I'd be surprised if the Shire under ruffian rules has a constitutional clause like the takings clause in the Fifth Amendment. But, I digress.
Probably not. No,
I can't imagine they're going to be worried about eminent domain.
No.
Oh, goodness.
Probably not.
No.
All right. Well, we are up to our last reading of the episode, aren't we?
Yeah.
You're going to take us out here.
I will. Sam had been looking the sheriffs up and down and had spotted one that he knew. Hey, come here, Robin Smallborough, he called. I want a word with you. With a sheepish glance at his leader, who looked wrathful but did not dare to interfere, Sheriff Smallborough fell back and walked beside Sam, who got down off his pony. Look here, Cock Robin, said Sam. You're Hobbiton bred and ought to have more sense, coming away laying Mr. Frodo and all. And what's all this about the inn being closed? They're all closed, said Robin. The chief doesn't hold with beer, leastways that's how it started. But now I reckon it's his men that has it all. And he doesn't hold with folk moving about. So if they will, or they must, then they has to go to the sheriff house and explain their business. You ought to be ashamed of yourself having anything to do with such nonsense, said Sam. You used to like the inside of an inn better than the outside yourself. You were always popping in, on duty or off. And so I would be still, Sam, if I could. But don't be hard on me. What can I do? You know how I went for a sheriff 7 years ago, before any of this began. Gave me a chance of walking around the country and seeing folk and hearing the news and knowing where the good beer was. But now it's different. But you can give it up. Stop sheriffing if it has stopped being a respectable job, said Sam. We're not allowed to, said Robin. If I hear not allowed much oftener, said Sam, I'm going to get angry. Can't say as I'd be sorry to see it, said Robin, lowering his voice. If we all got angry together, something might be done. But it's these men, Sam, the chief's men. He sends them round everywhere, and if any of us small folk stand up for our rights, they drag 'em off to the lockholes. They took old Flower Dumpling, old Will Whitfoot the mayor first, and they've taken a lot more. Lately, it's been getting worse. Often they beat 'em now. Then why do you do their work for them? Said Sam angrily. Who sent you to Frogmorton? No one did. We stay here in the big sheriff house. We're the first East Farthing troop now. There's hundreds of sheriffs all told, and they want more with all these new rules. Most of them are in it against their will, but not all. Even in the Shire there are some as like minding other folks' business and talking big. And there's worse than that. There's a few as do spy work for the chief and his men. Ah, so that's how you had news of us, is it? That's right. We aren't allowed to send by it now, but they use the old quick post service and keep special runners at different points. One came in from Whitfurrows last night with a secret message, and another took it on from here. And a message came back this afternoon saying you was to be arrested and taken to Bywater, not directly to the lockholes. The chief wants to see you at once, evidently. He won't be so eager when Mr. Frodo is finished with him, said Sam. Oh, no, he won't be.
No,
if it still mattered, if Lotho was still around, shall we say.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Yeah.
All right, so earlier, Merry recognized somebody he knew. He saw Hob Hayward, one of his acquaintances.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time for Sam to recognize somebody he knows, and this is Robin Smallburrow.
That's right.
Smallburrow, like a lot of Hobbit surnames, comes from the idea of living in holes in the ground, right? Small burrow. Pretty simple.
So apparently lived in a very cozy. I mean, the real estate agent would be like, no, you have to rename yourself Cozy Burrow.
Right.
Because we don't want to say that it's a small burrow. Small. You'll never sell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sam calls his friend over, and of course he's a bit hesitant, right? I don't want to do anything that's breaking the rules. Maybe talking to arrestees is against the rules. But Mr. Big Two-Feather doesn't dare get involved. So sure, he comes over and walks next to Sam. Now, I love that Sam got off his pony here. Part of me thinks it's a narrative technique so that they can have that sort of sotto voce conversation later. But I kind of feel like it's Sam being humble, letting Robin know he's still just an ordinary hobbit. I don't need to sit up here and look down on you. You're my friend.
That's a good insight. I think you're onto something there. Yeah.
I hope
because
so.
It would be, because obviously when he's up on his pony, he's going to be looking down on him. He's going to have the power, Anakin, I have the higher ground,
Oh, no, you did not go there.
But, he's definitely displaying some authority over him. And I think you're right. I think he's coming down to his level, literally.
Yeah. And I think maybe some of that is related to their relationship. I mean, Sam is working class. Yeah. Just like Robin is. Whereas when we see Merry interacting with Hob Hayward, Merry is nobility, right? I mean, he's going to be the master of Buckland. Yeah. He is the lord of that land, or the heir to the lord of that land. So it's a little different. And I think here, Sam and Robin, they see themselves as peers. And that's, I think, also why Sam's able to just lay into him like a good friend.
And he does. And he totally lays into him. Yeah. I mean, he says, you ought to have had more sense because you're from Hobbiton. And this is a little bit more of that regional parochialism that we've seen.
Exactly.
Remember those Bucklanders like Hob, they might do this, but come on, you're a Hobbiton guy.
I mean, those Bucklanders, they're queer, and the folks in Bree are even weirder. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you, man, you're from around here. This is not you. Why are you doing this?
Exactly.
Interesting that he calls him Cock Robin.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting term. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, this is actually old slang for a foolish or gullible man.
Huh.
Oxford English Dictionary also quotes a 1699 dictionary that actually defined it as a soft or easy fellow. So this is the kind of guy who just kind of goes along with the crowd, right? He's a follower, not a leader.
Yep,
and,
that's fair.
And he's easily fooled, and that's exactly what we see here. And obviously,
it really is.
Sam, who knows? This has probably been his nickname for a long time, and Sam just knows that this is the way.
Well, I mean, if his name really is Robin, then yeah, calling him Cock Robin, especially if that's sort of the personality trait that he's exhibited.
Yeah, so this isn't so much an insult. This is more just Sam calling him a nickname that is indicative of his personality.
And realistically, one that he probably has had for a long time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sam also asks him about the inn. What's going on with that?
Mm-hmm. Now, interestingly, Robin doesn't react to the claim that he ought to have more sense because he's from Hobbiton. He doesn't even respond to the insult if Cock Robin is an insult, which again suggests perhaps that it is a name he's been accustomed to.
Yeah.
But he does start to give Sam and us as a consequence some answers, especially about the whole inn situation. So it's not just the bridge inn that got destroyed. It's not just the floating log that's been closed. All the inns are closed. It's prohibition, but for thee and not for me, right? I mean, the chief is anti-beer, but the men all are getting the beer. And of course they do.
Of course they do.
You think those guys are working without beer? No.
Of course not.
That's
no.
right.
And somehow that's the saddest part of all of this to me. There's no beer in the Shire anymore.
There's no beer and there are no inns.
Come on.
That's crazy.
This is terrible.
It is
This
terrible.
is an outrage. Like, come on.
I mean, fine. If I have to go to the sheriff's and tell you where I'm going and when and why, that's fine. But don't take away my beer and pubs.
All right. Fair point. Yeah. The whole restrictions on travel are kind of rough too. But you're right. I mean, they're not allowed to travel freely. They do have to check in with the local sheriffs and give a good reason for going places.
That, I think, and again, maybe this is just the American in me. That is the part that I was talking about earlier, how it went from annoying and frustrating to oppressive really fast. Like, oh, they just turned this up to 11, I mean, I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think you're right. This is just too far. This is ridiculous.
It really is. And we're still not done.
No. Keeps getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
And after Sam suggests that Robin should be ashamed of himself because he used to like to have a drink at the inn, whether he was working or not.
I love that. On duty or off, man.
I mean, to be fair, the kind of beer they're talking about here is probably pretty low alcohol.
I mean, I'm sure it's not like, IPA 9%,
Right. No. This is probably like a 3%er. He's not getting hammered and then going out and haywarding.
And chasing out the cows that have gotten out of the fences. Right.
But after Sam says this, Robin gives us a glimpse of how I imagine a lot of the hobbits are feeling right now. They're feeling trapped.
Yeah.
He says, like, Sam, don't be so hard on me. I don't have a choice. What was I supposed to do?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, he's been in this job 7 years, right? A long time before any of these troubles began. And I love this. We even get a glimpse at how cushy this job was, right? Walking around, seeing everybody, getting the news, learning where to find good beer, drinking it on the job. This was a job, man.
Yeah,
he got
this was
paid
great,
for
man.
this. I love it.
The recruiter office probably had a line out the door for this job.
Yeah, there's only 12 positions open ever. And so I'm sure the line for getting into the sheriff's office was really long. You're right. Yeah.
You had to know somebody, I'm sure. Well,
you had to.
The Shire, so everybody knows
everybody. Knows everybody. It's
anyway,
true. So, Sam suggests if it's that bad, quit, right? And Robin says the magic words, we're not allowed to.
Oh, man.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about how these Shire hobbits, right? I mean, these are simple folk. These are rustic folk. They're not experienced fighters like Merry, Pippin, Frodo, and Sam. How easily could they be cowed by these men and, as we'll find out, sort of like half-orcs over the last year, turning into, well, we're not allowed? I mean, that doesn't sound very hobbity to me.
Not at all. No, not at all. Because as you said before, they like their simple pleasures. They like the ability to just go for a walk when they want to.
Yeah, and they like to eat, and they like to drink their beer.
Absolutely. But I think it had to come down to just simple size.
Yeah.
You don't know how to fight. So somebody who's bigger than you is going to have an advantage over you. And that's going to scare you.
I wonder how gradual it was too. Because I think there has to have been an element of that. Like there's no way that we went on day one after Frodo and the three others left that Lotho just laid down the law and took over the Shire. I mean, this was a gradual process. And over time,
Yeah.
it just became a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And then obviously when the big men came, it got, took a step up.
Well, and although Tolkien is, careful to tell us that he's not intentionally drawing a comparison with his own Britain. I mean,
True.
I think if you look at history and you look at these sorts of movements in history, I mean, I think they do usually happen gradually, don't they?
Yeah.
People find their freedoms eroded a little bit at a time, and suddenly you turn around and you realize, oh, wow, this place is not the place it once was. And this has happened many times throughout history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has. Wow.
Well, another mention of these rules and all this not allowed business. I mean, this pushes Sam near the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin, I'm proud of him here.
Yeah.
He actually makes the suggestion that, like, we're all thinking right now, like, maybe getting angry is what we need to do, but we need to do it together at the same time. If we did it together, we got something.
We got to do it as a team, because when we do it one at a time, it doesn't help anybody. The chief's men take those people away. And he mentions the story of old Flour Dumpling. Now, that name, by the way, takes us all the way back to Book 1, Chapter 9. Frodo and his friends are at the Prancing Pony. This is right before Frodo in the ring with the dancing on the table and all that bad stuff. We read that Pippin roused a good deal of laughter with an account of the collapse of the roof of the town hall in Mitchell Delving. Will Whitfoot, the mayor, and the fattest hobbit in the West Farthing had been buried in chalk and came out like a floured dumpling.
I remember that. That's so great.
So
I love that.
Oh, I love that.
That's awesome.
So funny.
An unlikely folk hero to find at a time like this, but we see he was the first to be taken away for standing up to them.
Absolutely.
He was behaving like a leader. He did what he was supposed to do.
That's right.
But he was taken away because he did it alone.
Yeah.
As we see.
Yeah. It's got to be as one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we learned there have been a lot more. There have been lots of others to stand up to them.
Yeah.
But it's been getting more violent too.
Yeah. Some have been beaten. And that I suspect that's more only after the men came. I don't think Lotho and his hobbits would have been beating other hobbits, but throwing them in the lock holes, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a speculation on my part. But yeah.
No, I hope that's right. Sam still is angry about Robin working for them. And, he asks, like, who sent you here?
Exactly. I mean, after all, the sheriffs would normally answer directly to the mayor of Mitchell Delving, who also filled the post of first sheriff. But with Whitfoot in the lockholes, who's giving the orders?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out they weren't even sent to Frogmorton. That's actually where they're stationed.
That's right. And like you said a moment ago, there used to be only 12 of the sheriffs in the entirety of the Shire, just 3 in each farthing. So they wouldn't be stationed at any one place. They wouldn't be effective. They had to roam around.
Right.
Now, though, there are hundreds of sheriffs.
Hundreds. From a dozen to hundreds.
Yeah.
That's
from a dozen to hundreds. Not 100, but hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. I mean, sure, hundreds you could say is 200 because that's multiple hundreds. But it's sort of like a few is not 2. So I imagine there's at least 300.
I'm thinking 300-ish.
As a minimum,
least.
Yeah.
From 12.
Yeah.
And they want more. They're recruiting more because, of course, there's probably a lot of dissent out there and they need to crush it.
They got to crush the dissent. And, of course, this increasing presence of law enforcement is needed to, like you said, sort of crack down on dissent and follow the rules.
Yeah. And in more disturbing news, Smallbarrow tells Sam that even though most of the folk doing this job don't want to do it, well, there are some who do.
Yeah.
And we get a glimpse of the dark side of the Shire and the dark side of hobbits. It's kind of like the world's worst HOA.
It really is.
just
oh my gosh, it totally is.
know.
Looking at the violations, the code. We got a letter because the number plate, the black paint on our number plate that says the street number of our address had faded. And we got a letter from our HOA saying, you have to replace the tile because we can't read the number now.
Man,
you got to be kidding me.
That's ridiculous.
Typical.
I'm not going to put anything out in the universe about my HOA. I've been lucky for a little while.
Yeah, well, luckily nobody knows where I live, so I'm just going to say nothing. That's why I didn't mention. Oh, but yeah, it really is that, isn't it? I mean, it's definitely the worst one because they actually beat you and put you in jail, whereas really these guys, all they're going to do is fine me.
It's a little worse than my HOA for sure.
I suppose if I don't pay the fine, they could take my house. I mean, that does how it eventually works.
Yeah,
so not only do we have some pathetic hobbits who simply like bossing others around, but some of them, Robin says, have gone so far as to even spy for Lotho the men, turning on their own hobbits. That's really disturbing.
Sad. Yeah.
And the mention of spies, well, that helps Sam put 2 and 2 together. He realizes that a spy must have sent news of their arrival to the Shire, all the way
Yeah.
into Hobbiton and Bywater.
Right. And we certainly had that hinted at by Hob Hayward back at the Bridge House. You know, when the other hobbits were concerned that the chief would hear us talk, he said, well, you know, he wouldn't hear not if some of you here weren't sneaks.
That's right.
And he was right. He must know there were spies, and it must be well known that there are spies.
Yeah. And the service that used to be for the mail, which, by the way, we're told they can't even use it for that purpose anymore, is now used to send messages for the chief and his men.
That's kind of weirdly dystopian, isn't it? Like,
isn't it?
You know, controlling the means of communication.
Yeah.
You know, again, like
cracking down on dissent. That's really all this is. This is just another way of shutting down the ability to come together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You eliminate their ability to organize. And, yeah. So Smallbarrow tells Sam that a runner came from Whitfurrows, which is a town about halfway between the Brandywine Bridge and Frogmorton. He says he came last night with news, and it was carried on from there. That's what you were talking about, the relaying of the message. And he says that the return message arrived to Frogmorton the next afternoon.
Yeah. Like we said, that's 58 miles in 20 hours. It's pretty quick for foot messengers, especially hobbits. Nobody's going to be renaming a marathon Frogmorton. I mean, because it's not just one guy. I mean, it really is not quite 3 miles an hour. It's not even a 20-minute mile pace.
Right.
Now, that would be superhuman to maintain a 20-minute mile pace for 20 straight hours, I would think. I mean, I certainly couldn't do it.
Sure, yeah.
But, you know, it's not one guy. It's very clear there are multiple message runners, so that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and I missed it a moment ago, but yeah, it is very clear here in the text that that's how it was. So that return message, back to the content of the message itself, that message was to arrest our heroes and take them to Bywater instead of to the Lockholes.
Yeah.
Now remember, the Lockholes are at Mitchell Delving.
Yeah.
But the chief, Lotho himself, is in the Bywater and Hobbiton area.
That's right. So the chief allegedly wants to see them, but Sam thinks he's not going to be so keen on that once Frodo's done with him. And that hint, though, about Frodo being done with him feels like a remnant of a different version of the story that we read about in Sauron Defeated, some of the earlier drafts, one where Frodo plays a far more active role in the leadership of the upcoming rebellion and even in the necessary violence.
Yeah, but we'll cover more of that in 2 weeks' time when we come back to the chapter.
That's right. Now, a runner came in from Whitfurrows last night with a secret message, and another took it on from there. And a message came back this afternoon saying you is to be arrested and taken to Bywater so you could answer a question from the mailbag. Shawn?
Not the first time.
No, not the first time, nor will it be the last. What does Barlin have for us today?
All right. Well, this is really a compilation question because we've had a number of people email us asking how things have been going with our book, Why We Love Middle-earth. So let's do this. What kind of updates can we give folks on what's been going on with the book?
Goodness. I mean, the last time we talked about it would have been the last time you were here for a full episode, which was right after Oxenmoot. You know, at that point, we'd had the launch of the book at Oxenmoot, and we knew that the book was being released in September. I narrated the audiobook. I got to do that. I know we were so bummed. We wanted to do it together. The company.
Yeah. It would have been great to do it together.
Would have been fantastic. I mean.
Wasn't in the cards.
No, it just wasn't.
Not, yeah.
But it was a fantastic experience.
I'm sure.
Sales and reviews and things. I mean, I don't know about sales because our data is all old and sort of laggy.
Yeah, it's a few months old at this point. But I mean, you know, the reviews have been solid.
Yeah,
We've got, a little over 100 reviews on Amazon right now.
Yeah.
We've had a few dozen reviews scattered in other places on the internet, like Goodreads and stuff like that. And generally speaking, the feedback is very positive. I'm really happy about that.
It's been very encouraging. We've both done some events. Shawn, tell us a little bit about some of the book events that you've done.
Austin's a pretty geeky town. And
it is. Yeah.
So I've had a few opportunities to do events. I'd love to do more.
Yeah.
But, you know, the first one I did here in town was at a store called the Dragon's Lair. Awesome game and comic store.
Oh, man, that sounds like my kind of store.
Oh, it's a great place. You got to go next time.
Hide my checkbook.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Take my credit cards from me quickly.
You walk in and it's like, just shut up and take all of my money.
Yeah, seriously.
Board games, D&D and other tabletop RPG books, miniatures, figures, comic books, just awesome little geek mecca.
I got to come visit you, Shawn.
You do?
Just so I can go to Dragon's Lair.
You do, totally.
Sounds
That's
awesome.
why I'm saying it. You got to come out, man.
Yeah.
But super cool store, super great people. And that was a fun event because we actually had a few of our Prancing Pony podcast people come out.
Did we? Right on.
Yeah. Some of the folks in the Texas area, people came from as far as Houston. Some of the folks from the Houston Tolkien Society Smile came out. And that was great. That was a lot of fun. We sold a lot of books and we made some new fans there. That was cool.
That is cool. I've done
Big shout out to Dragon's Lair. Done a couple of events for a smaller bookstore called the Bookborough here in Pflugerville, Texas. They've been an awesome partner. I did an event with them back in January, and then they had me back on Tolkien Reading Day, which was just a little over a month ago. So yeah, I was there on March 25th and did a little reading from Tolkien. I did a little reading from our book and did a little discussion. So that was super cool.
That is cool.
How about yourself?
Yeah, I've done a few. Yeah, we did the first signings that they had me do were at Barnes & Noble in the local area.
Right.
I did one right here in my town. Got a few of our listeners that came in as well. But I think, it was a smaller event. I don't know that we sold more than about 8 or 10 books, but I got to meet with people and talk with them for a much longer period of time. The more successful one was at the larger Barnes & Noble up in Irvine at this big place called the Spectrum. It's a big shopping center.
Yeah, I know.
And that store is huge. And the manager there set it up with chairs and a mic set up like an interview. So she asked me questions and we had a Q&A, and there were like 30 people, maybe 35 people there.
That's great.
A number of listeners again as well, but mostly new fans who had not previously heard about it. So that was exciting. And then I had a book signing in San Diego, which is a couple hours south of me, at a place called Mysterious Galaxy, which is a little bit like Dragon's Lair in the sense that it is, it's all fantasy sci-fi. It's just a great bookshop. And I was down there for that, and I ran into the owner of this little cider place, like a cider, maker.
Oh yeah, you told me about this place.
Serpentine Cider. And they invited me to come down and do a couple of events they were doing a series of Lord of the Rings nights. It's like one a month. So they were just about to do Fellowship. I couldn't make it down, but I made it down for their events for the Two Towers and Return of the King, and got to meet a whole lot of new people there.
That's
Went
awesome.
through, 10, 15 books at each event, and, signed a lot for people. And it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I haven't done any since then. That was about 2 months ago.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think, when the next one will be, but I don't have anything currently on my calendar, but always open to that. And I would love to be able to try to do something, together, to come out.
It would be nice if we could do something together.
It's just so hard practically. You live.
It'll just have to be big because one of us is going to have to travel. And then,
1,500 miles to, get out on the other side of the country.
Got to be worth it. But no, I've got a couple of things I'm trying to work on right now. I mean, I've got the stores that I've appeared at so far. They've said, let us know when you want to come back.
Yeah,
so
same.
I'm just trying to work some of that out, and possibly looking at another big event somewhere in Texas that might end up happening. I don't know. Can't say anything right now.
Ooh, secretive. All right.
I've kind of, there's one thing I've kind of been in some conversations about. So
can't tell us because it's against the rules.
Right. That's right. I'm not allowed. But no, it's been great. I mean, the response has been fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, it's now for sale in the Austin Public Library's shop.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, they've got a gift shop at the main branch of the library, and they've got a few copies for sale there, which is kind of neat. Just because that'll be a way to reach an audience that doesn't usually get to us, right?
Yeah.
People at Dragon's Lair, or what was your place, Mysterious Galaxy?
Yeah, Mysterious Galaxy in San Diego.
There's a good chance these people already know us because they're just in that culture. But
exactly,
this is kind of neat to be able to get to a different audience. So that'll be cool.
That will be. It'll be interesting to see how things progress. I mean, obviously, we have no idea. To answer the other question that we've gotten a lot of, no, we have no idea about a sequel. We have not been spoken to about that by our publisher. We are not interested in trying to do the work necessary anytime soon.
No.
I mean, someday down the road, yes, of course, but that's a long ways off. So,
I mean, realistically, we know what a sequel will look like if and when we do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we kind of know what we want it to look like, what we want to do with it. Yeah.
We've already talked about what the outline would or will be.
I've got the better part of 8,000 words ready to go for a chapter on video games. And
and there's I've got some bits and pieces that didn't make it into the first book that I would use for a second book. So there's some work done towards it, but there's no plans to continue that right now.
And there's just no space in either of our current lives to try to tackle it right now. So,
and realistically, it's only been a few months since we finished this one. I mean, it's been less
than
and
it hasn't been that big. It's not like it showed up as number one on the New York Times bestseller list and our publisher's like, please write a sequel and get it out this year.
Right.
No, that's not going to happen.
But if people want that to happen, hey,
just go buy the book. That's right.
Go buy some copies and give them to all your friends. Just
absolutely
put that out there.
We even were asked at one point, was there ever going to be a hardcover? We asked about that with our publisher when we were first doing the deal. And they said, no, but if it sells well enough, we might do a hardcover gift edition at some point. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, they liked the idea. Nice. They liked the idea of doing something like that.
Especially with all the nice artwork that Emily did for us. I mean, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be nice to see something like that. But, I mean, they're the publisher. It's got to make sense for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to make financial sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
But definitely, I mean, hey, look, I don't want to put this out there again, but I'm going to. I mean, hey, buy copies, give them to your friends.
Yeah, please.
Reviews on Amazon would help us continue to keep this thing going and continue to help this book find a new audience. And
100%.
That's what'll make a second one more likely.
Reviews on Amazon, but buy it at your local bookstore. We want to support the local bookshops.
Yeah, absolutely support the local. Yeah, I mean the local bookstores have really come through for us on this, and it's been amazing to see how much when the big guys don't always recognize us. I know you did a couple of
I did some Barnes and Noble ones.
You did a couple of B&Ns, but it's the little guys who really support us on this, and I want to support them.
Agreed, 100%. Well, folks, that does wrap it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. But come back again next week when we celebrate our 333rd episode with highlights of special magnificence.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
You
and
bet.
I know this because
we've already recorded it.
We've already recorded it.
We have 2 mics and a TARDIS, so we are able to do some incredible things. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. Folks are not going to want to miss that.
You'll enjoy it.
Our 111 multiples are always a lot of fun.
They are.
Super happy to come back for this one. But folks, Alan and I want to thank the members of Team PPP. That's our editor, Jordan Rennells, our barleman, Becca Davis, social media manager, Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator, Katie McKenna, graphic artist, Megan Collins, and website guru, Phil Dean.
Now, please take a minute to check out theprancingponypodcast.com. That's where you're going to find our show notes, outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, and our online storefront where you can get PPP merch, including chapter-specific artwork from Megan.
And please take a moment to visit our library page. The Prancing Pony Podcast has always been about the books. So if you're interested in a book that we've mentioned on the show, you'll find a link for it in our library, and we do get a small amount of compensation when you make your purchase, so we thank you for that.
Indeed, we do. And we also want to thank our patrons at the Care Dance contribution tier. I'll start with DeMay in Alaska, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Joseph in Michigan, Kathy from North Carolina, Carlos in California, Brian in the UK, Ned from Connecticut, Jerry from Washington, Joe in Washington, Erwin from the Netherlands, Ben in Minnesota, Anthony in Texas, Zaksu in Illinois, Sarah in New Jersey, Joshua in Massachusetts, Lucy in Texas, and Keith in Alabama.
And there's also Erica in Texas, Carson in Oklahoma, Vivian in California, James in Massachusetts, Ann in Kentucky, Shawn in New Jersey, Mason in California, Maureen from Massachusetts, John in Japan, Olivia in London, Robert in Arizona, Nick in Wisconsin, Lewis in South Carolina, Thomas in Germany, Craig in California, Bailey in Texas, Kevin in Massachusetts, another Paul in Colorado, and Julie in Washington. Folks, thank you all so very much for your support.
Indeed, thank you.
And make sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe now through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your applications for the job of sheriff to Barleman at theprancingponypodcast.com. And if you want your voice literally heard, well, just send us audio of your question. Visit podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
Just please be sure to still email the question to Barleman, though.
Yeah.
Even though Barleman's been a lot more reliable lately, there is still a lot of mail to sort through. But we'll try to get to you just as soon as we're able to.
As always, though, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.